Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon. Okay, so welcome back to another episode. Greetings, Canary Kin. Thanks for joining. As promised, today we're going to be talking about the issue of birthright citizenship and a few things that we kicked off discussing yesterday. Now, a few developments have happened since yesterday, and maybe we'll talk about them in brief. The vote that took place on the Senate floor yesterday about reopening the government has gone through, and finally the Democrats have done what they were always going to do. They were going to hold out as long as possible, figure out a way to smear the Trump administration and blame the Republicans for the shutdown, and then come back and try to see if they can ride in like the victorious heroes coming to save the American people from the Orange Man. Well, I don't think it's working out that way, but don't underestimate the dishonesty of the mainstream media. Today, we're also going to look at something that Canary King pointed out in the comment section yesterday. There was several resignations took place in the BBC connected to the doctoring or editing, notorious editing of Trump's January 6, 2021 speech, where they made it look like Trump incited the crowd to go and be violent in the Capitol. So, yeah, and Canary King also says that, yeah, they were also waiting for Mamdani to be elected. And then they also had several elections that happened within the same period. So they're trying to brand this as a Democrat win. I saw a headline connected to the Democrat wins from last week saying that America rejected Trump by electing these Democrats. I don't see the connection. These are historically blue states. They've always voted blue no matter who. Simply saying that something that has always happened, which happened, is a way of validating the fact that someone has been rejected. I don't think that's an honest take on anything. It's like saying Texas voted a Republican president during the Obama administration. Therefore, they are rejecting Obama. It's always happened that way. Texas is historically a red state, and it's hard to make that argument. So let's try to be honest. I could be the guy who jumps in here to be sensational, to say, look, let's say stuff that appeals to people who lean right only. And then I drill down on that and try to make people on the left look like demons. I could do that, but I don't think that's honest. I know that there are people who vote blue who aren't evil people. They just prefer the Democrat Party. maybe historically they've always voted blue, and they think that their faith in the Democrat Party can revive that original spirit that they are, connected to. And honestly, there are lots of people who are that way. I have family who vote Democrat. I do. I have brothers who live in the States. They are citizens now, and they vote blue. And I don't think they're evil. I love them very much. So I know that there are people who have that sentiment. Okay. Now, I am going to Lauren. Lauren, thank you for jumping into the main channel. I think Lauren was on the backup channel, and then suddenly she's on the main channel. So let me take these chats. Thank you, Canarikin, for joining. Thank you, Lauren, for joining. I'm going to read your chats. This is about your views. So I'm going to honor you guys by reading out your comments in the chat. All right. So Canarikin says they were waiting for Mamdani to get elected. All right, so do you guys mind if I try to make this chat larger so that when I'm reading the chat, you guys basically see the larger version, or should I just leave it as is? Just let me know in the chat, because I want you guys to feel connected to the thing, to the conversation that we're having. Okay, so that's why I am looking at kind of making. We had a feature. Oh, it's not is it getting larger? Is it? We had a feature that allowed us to, okay, it's not making the text larger, it's just making it wider. Okay, so we had a feature that allowed us to make the text, the chat show up on the screen. That feature exists on an online version of the streaming software. And last week we had a snafu where the stream just I wasn't able to play streams. So sorry, the videos. So I had to go back to my old setup. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick with the old setup until I figure out how to make that happen. But we can't make the chat larger, so I'll just read your chat in the stream. Now there's a poll on the YouTube side. If you're watching from the YouTube side, please consider using the poll. Okay, give me a moment. One of the channels isn't streaming for some reason. I need to be sure of what's happening here. Just give me a moment, please. Give me one moment. Okay, yeah, it's actually streaming. Sorry about that. Okay. So let me read your comments. I haven't gotten to Lauren's comments yet, so let me get to her comments in the stream. Okay. The BBC thing is crazy. Yeah, we're going to watch that coverage and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the BBC thing. It's amazing that, like, I keep saying here that time is our friend. Time is our friend. And that and I believe that since time is our friend, we shouldn't get so emotional to the point where we begin to react in certain ways that we regret after a few years, or come to some conclusions that we find out are actually not true. So one of the things that I want us to do is look at the facts, make a decision based on the facts. When the facts change, we reconsider the facts and then change our position. It's really important that we learn how to do so. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Lauren says, Massey or the Democrats can now vote to release the Epstein files. They'll all vote. They're all voting yes. Will most Republicans follow Trump's orders and vote no? Will they block the release? We'll find out soon. Well, I hope they all vote yes. I hope they all vote yes. Saying that Republicans all follow Trump's orders is not true. There are Republicans there that are doing things that are not exactly aligning with Trump's agenda. Not every Republican is going to vote. All right. So we we need to kind of see what happens. The Epstein files was never a big talking point for the Democrats. It wasn't. When conservatives were screaming about the Epstein files, mainstream media simply said it's a conspiracy theory. How come it's suddenly become this lightning rod topic that will determine if Republicans are conscientious, good people, or if they don't push for Trump to release the Epstein files? All right, someone just followed on the Kick side. Thank you for following. If you're watching for the first time and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing and supporting the channel. Consider joining the membership so that you can join us for the members only live streams and content that are posted only for members. And the members have access to a special call-in feature. We're going to bring back the call-in feature soon. And then I would love to have you guys let me know your thoughts in the chat. The chat exists for you. This show is all about you. We're going to react to the news, but it's really all about your responses in the chat. Okay, your chat directs the show. I come with a couple of high-end topics that we need to talk about, but your chat directs the show. That's the way the show is designed. Now, sometimes I feel like, do I really want the chat to direct the show, especially when Canary King drags me down a rabbit hole? I'm throwing him under the bus. Okay, but maybe it's just me not being able to figure out the direction of the show, and Canary King drags me down into a rabbit hole. Maybe that's it. Okay, but it's really all about you guys having a conversation with me, us sharing ideas. If we disagree on something, we disagree. And then we shake hands and go home and bring our ball back the next day to play. That's the way we used to do it as kids. How come today disagreements are an existential crisis? If I disagree with you, it means that I need to destroy you. That culture is just insane. That culture is insane. I don't want that culture to become the culture that we hand off to our children. If there are people out there who want their children to have this mental picture that their neighbor is an evil person simply because they're Democrat or because they're Republican and they don't agree with you on certain policy issues, that is the makings of the destruction of that community. We don't want to destroy people simply because they don't agree with us. Okay, so back to Lauren's chat. I hope Lauren is still in the chat because people tend to dip out when they post something. Or it's a work day for a lot of people, so I understand. But Lauren, I hope you stick around and let us know if you're still here. Canary King says, let's release the Epstein files. You see, Canary King is a Trump supporter. I like Trump's policies, but I will call out anything that I don't think is right. Now, my wife and kids are home. Just fair warning, my wife and kids are home. You might occasionally hear kids arguing with each other in the background. Okay, all three kids like to make their voice heard, so you might hear that. So in case, and then my wife doesn't exactly know that I'm live streaming sometimes, or she forgets that I live stream at a certain time of day. So she calls me on the phone to ask me to get something out of the freezer to defrost. She calls me to tell the kids to do stuff. She calls me just to hear my voice. Okay, she does all of that. And sometimes I answer the phone in the middle of the live stream. It may seem unprofessional to you, but I'm married, I have a family, so it tends to happen. Fair warning, it's going to happen. Okay, because I heard her, she just got back from an appointment with the masseuse. Yes, my wife went to have a massage. She's been trying to get me to have a massage for years. I don't like the idea of a stranger putting their hands on my skin. I don't like that idea. I've never had a massage and I will never have a massage. She's tried to talk me into it. It's not going to happen. Okay, so she just got back and I can hear her voice. So I'm just giving you fair warning. She might walk into the door is locked. She might knock and then I have to open the door and attend to my wife and everything. So I just need to, I need you guys to just, have that in mind. All right. The chat, I enjoy talking with you guys. We're going to talk about the birthright citizenship thing, my thoughts about keeping immigrants from running for any elected office until the third generation immigrants and older and higher. That is my position. All right. You can let me know your thoughts. We can exchange ideas, but I'm telling you what I think. And if you don't know why I think so, we're going to discuss it during the live stream. Okay. All right. So back to the chat. I didn't support. You see, he's doing it again. Canary King is doing it again. He's dragging me down a rabbit hole. I'll get to that chat. Okay. So thank you, Lauren. I hope you stick around. Let's release. Yeah, Canary King says that, agreeing with you. Did you see Vivek in Ohio? No, I didn't. Maybe I'll take a look at that, and if it's something we can talk about. If you think it's something that we should look at, you can say so in the chat. I'll quickly pull up the video and find something that we can review. Okay, so if you think the Vivek news or update from Ohio is important, let me know in the chat. All right, Tara is in the chat. Okay, so we have Canary King, we have Lauren, we have Tara, all in the chat. If you're watching and you're not in the chat yet, what are you doing? Come on, that's where the party is. Okay, pleasantries. I'm not going to read your pleasantries. So Tara is supporting Canary King. You're asking him to drag me into some more rabbit holes. Okay. I see the conspiracy. Okay, fine. I see you guys. Fine. It is your show. If you want me to talk about the moon landing being fake, you guys can ask me to jump into that. It's fine. Okay, so whatever you want to talk about, let me know in the chat. Okay, you know I will. All right. So here's what Canary King said. He says, Crossroads, you didn't support Trump on the Stormy Daniels issue, though. Canary King wants me to explore the dark corridors of booking adult actresses or models, as they like to call themselves, for private sexual excursions. And he's been trying to get me to say that Stormy Daniels was hot, and that I shouldn't blame Donald Trump for abandoning his supermodel wife for the night, and then having a one-night stand with a porn star. I've made my point very clear on that topic. I don't think anyone should cheat on their wives, no matter how attractive the person they cheat with is. It's a one-night stand. I saw this movie over the weekend, Frankenstein by Del Toro. Okay, and one of the characters there, who was the sponsor of Frankenstein, happened to have syphilis. And at the time, in the 1800s, people thought that the treatment for syphilis was mercury. And so Frankenstein discovered him taking mercury. And the man made a very poetic statement. He said, you spend one night with Venus and a lifetime with Mercury. That means you have a one-night stand, okay, and then you live the rest of your life with the consequences of that one-night stand. He caught syphilis, of course, by being a philanderer, and one night he got it from someone he spent the night with, and then he spends the rest of his life treating syphilis with mercury. Of course, today we know that mercury is dangerous and should not be ingested. So people who actually died quicker because they tried treating syphilis with mercury. So just wanted to put that out there. So one-night stands aren't good for you. They aren't good for you. Okay, so let's quickly read this story. This is from Ground News. I like to use Ground News because it kind of gives me both sides. There's the left-leaning headlines, and then there's the right-leaning headlines. If I were to look at the left-leaning headlines, there's one headline, and the headline says, Trump asks U.S. Supreme Court to take birthright citizenship case. All right, the headline is very bland. On the right, the headline says things like, Trump asks Supreme Court to review birthright citizen case again. So one is saying, take the case. The other one is saying, review. So they like to kind of use words that kind of tilt the opinion of the reader. But I like to go down the middle. So the center review of this says, the Department of Justice asked the Supreme Court of the United States this term to review the birthright citizenship dispute with U.S. Solicitor General D. John Sauer, petitioning Friday to reverse lower court rulings. Thank you for following on the Kick side. The filing asks the court to revisit the 14th Amendment, arguing it was meant for newly freed Black people after the Civil War, and that's subject to the jurisdiction excludes children born in the U.S. to parents without authorization or on temporary visas. Lower courts kept a preliminary injunction that blocks implementation of the order, while the Department of Justice argued those rulings undermine border security and a policy of prime importance to the administration. The petitions filed Friday appeared on the court's public docket Monday. Responses are due by January 29th, and the earliest action could be summer of next year. The case asks whether the 14th Amendment covers children of illegal aliens and temporary residents, challenging the 1898 United States versus Wong Kim Ark precedent and affecting hundreds of thousands, the administration says. Now, my daughter was born in the United States because of this loophole. I'll call it a loophole. And for a lot of people, I mean, it's a good loophole. For me, I was like, there's a good loophole if the loophole is used the right way. However, the problem with these things is whenever you see people using a loophole and eventually the outcome begins to trend downwards, people begin to say there's something wrong with the way this is being implemented. People are abusing this loophole. It's like the H-1B visa. It's a good thing to be able to let companies get talent from outside of the United States to bring them in order to, to kind of strengthen their businesses. However, the problem is there are companies that began to abuse it, and then in a bid to correct the abuse, the Trump administration does something that is quite unpopular. I know people who are on who went into the United States based on the H-1B visa. These are good people. These are nice people. However, when you have these experiences or encounters where people who are good people are now being subject to essentially the administration trying to destroy an ant with a hammer because of the abuses of a group of people, it is why we should speak up whenever we see these abuses happening before the administration has to use a nuclear weapon to destroy or to deal with the issue. Okay? It's like the filibuster. The nuclear option is remove the filibuster. Those of us who process these things say to ourselves, if the administration removes the filibuster, what then happens when the administration in power happens to not be someone you support? These are the kinds of thoughts that go through my mind. And the question will always be, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? It's a good thing if it's used for good, if that loophole or that arrangement is used for good. But it's a bad thing when that same thing is implemented in such a way that it affects a disproportionate number of people. All right. Yeah. And Tara, yes, Tara is my sister. Okay. So my niece also was born in the United States as well. So, yes. Now, and so she's saying her response may be sentimental. Look, I will be very honest. Okay. I am conflicted with this situation. But as always, my opinion will always be what is right for the American people. It sounds asinine to people that I would take this position. People would expect me to actually fight, to keep the birthright citizenship in place. At Trump, that is a non-issue. He should move on. But the question is, why is his administration dealing with this? Because there were essentially here's the picture here. Birthright citizenship would not have been so critical if you didn't have over 10 million illegal immigrants flood into the country over the last 4 years. And 10 million right now, I am hearing, is very conservative. So imagine out of the 10 million people, 1 million of them had children. 1 million had children. That means in the last 4 years, you had people who came in undocumented, and then they just dropped 1 million new American citizens. But because they came in illegally, that's a problem. And so there are even stories of people who would be due to give birth. They would cross the border moments before they would give birth, and then just give birth on the other side of the border, in the grass or on the dirt. And that person is automatically an American citizen. Now, I know that the people are under desperate straits. And look, your country is so important to people that they would go that far to have their children in your country. Connecticut says it's not a loophole. I believe it is, because the wording of the... Okay, so let's play the video, okay, and then we'll use the videos to judge whether my statement that it's a loophole or not is correct or not. So we're going to play this video and several others that cover the story. Oops, sorry, I need to go back.
This decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves.
So let's ask the question. Okay, so if there was a law, this is a thought experiment, guys. Intergalactic Wrangler, thank you for joining. Good to see you. I was hoping you would join. All right, so we're starting off the conversation with the birthright citizenship situation before we talk about my position on only third-generation immigrants and older running for elected office, because it starts from ideas like this. So we're looking at the country, and birthright citizenship allows anyone who comes in, whether illegally, and I call it a loophole, who comes in illegally or comes in with a temporary visa, legally, but with a temporary visa, to have children in the country, and those children automatically become citizens. Then there's the argument that is, I don't know, that's a funny argument to have. It's not a loophole, it's a law. But the ruling was made for to cover the children of freed slaves. So that was the argument being presented to the Supreme Court. We're going to hear that argument in a bit. So I like to bring these policy issues home to a personal level. So if I if I had a situation where I'm trying to think of it in a way that is a correlation. I'm trying very hard. I should have thought about it before going live, but let me just try this live, on air. So it's like when someone moves into, it's like the issue of squatting. Okay, squatters' rights. I think it's similar. With squatters' rights, if someone moves into your home, which has been unoccupied for a while because there are families who own country homes and so on, and then squatters move in and live there for a number of months. In some states, there's something called squatters' rights, where that squatter cannot be removed if the occupant of the property has not lived in the property for a number of years. I believe that law is being abused because a couple of years back, I saw videos of illegal immigrants squatting on people's properties, and the police refused to help the owners of the property to remove those illegal immigrants. Now, if that was your property and that law was in place and was being used on your circumstance where someone illegally broke into your home and began to live there, and the state tells you you can't kick them out because of squatters' rights, is that law a just law? Is it a good law, or is it a bad law? Now, for a country set up a law that says, and squatters' rights may have started out to be like a compassionate law for people who don't have homes. If there is a wealthy person who has a home and can afford to not live in that home for a period of time in the year, he should be able to let someone squat there for a few months. It could have started out that way and suddenly is being abused. Now, the 14th Amendment was set out for a certain purpose, to bring justice to former slaves, so that their children could vote and could have access to the amenities and to the privileges of being a citizen, because slaves were not seen as citizens at first. And then the 14th Amendment was enacted. Now, we have that law, which was a compassionate law, being implemented, but now is being abused by people who don't originally come from the United States. And then there's this surge that took place over the last 4 years, where you had over 10 million undocumented immigrants flooding across the border. And if half of them had children, it means that they automatically have 5 million anchor babies in the United States. Is it a bad thing in and of itself? No, because America is attractive. America is the greatest country on the planet. People would give if someone said, donate your kidney and you become an American citizen, you would have billions of people giving you their kidneys. I kid you not. Try that out. Maybe we should have a poll. If you were asked to donate your kidney in order to become a citizen of the United States, would you donate your kidney? You would see billions of people will say yes, because you can survive on one kidney. You can take that gamble if it means becoming a citizen of the United States. That is how precious that title is. So I don't blame people for doing that, but roping in people with temporary visas is a nuclear option, because I'm like, okay, so why are you including people with temporary visas? Because, to be honest, a lot of people do that. My wife and I did it. My sister, who's in the chat, did it. And when you ask the question why, the one answer is we want to give our children a fighting chance, because the countries we come from are shitholes. Okay, when Trump said it in 2017 or 2018, and people were up in arms, oh, he's racist. I said, excuse me, what do you mean? I live here. It is a shithole. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have an audience. But I was talking with people. I wasn't talking with people. I was thinking it in my head. I was like, why are people why are they manufacturing outrage? I live in Nigeria. I've lived there for years. It is a shithole. So when he says that and people are like, oh, it's crazy, let us be the ones to say it. It is a shithole. Okay, at least Nigeria is a shithole country. A shithole country that allows its citizens get murdered by armed cattle rearers who are Muslims, and claims that it's not happening. That's a shithole country. A shithole country is a country that the governors host these terrorists and entertain them in the government house. It's on video. That's a shithole country. Thank you for following on the kick side. Thank you. So I would love for us to have these real conversations and try and bring them down to a personal level. Maybe I didn't succeed at kind of bringing the parallel between birthright citizenship and squatters' rights. Maybe I messed that up. Maybe I did. I guess I definitely did. But you get the point. There has to be a kind of connection between common sense and these public policies. If public policies don't make common sense, we have to call it out and say, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Okay. And we should discuss it and actually come to a logical conclusion. All right. All right. I'm going to read the chat before I keep playing the video. All right. All right. You missed. Okay. I'm going to read the comments. All right. Personally, I don't agree with Trump on this point on ending birthright citizenship. Well, it's a very touchy situation for me too. I'm struggling with it, but to be honest, you have to ask, how did we get here? And that's why I'm pointing back to the fact that over 10 million people cross the borders illegally, and it's a potential crisis. Trump is trying to forestall a mass crisis that is on the horizon. All of those 10 million people didn't come in and immediately start giving birth to children. And even though I said there are like maybe 1 million people give birth, okay, it's not going to happen immediately, but he's kind of looking on the horizon to say, if all of these people eventually just decide, okay, we're going to get pregnant and give birth, what does it look like for the United States? What does it look like for the states where they live in? How is it going to affect voting? How is it going to affect security? How is it going to affect all these things? So he's looking forward, and I don't know if the nuclear option is what they they concluded with. Sadly, that's the option they concluded with because of the sheer scale of the problem. The biggest issue in Western Europe and Japan is shrinking populations, which is sad. White people aren't giving birth to enough children. They've been sold the slim, portable family idea. Have one child, have 2 kids, and enjoy your life. Travel the world, own a puppy, grow old and look slim and young. That's what they were sold by Hollywood. Japan is different. They have a space issue, so they have to manage their spaces. So they have to kind of curtail how many kids they have. Plus, they have a serious pornography problem and prostitution problem. Tara says, my reason, as with countless others, for having my daughter there was to give her a head start in life. Yeah, same for us. Like I said, this is very conflicting. It's a conflicting topic. If we had affordable housing, we wouldn't have that issue. Okay, if we had affordable housing, we wouldn't have that issue. Okay, so essentially, there's the problem where there's a surge in population, the cost of housing goes up, it affects everyone in the country, therefore, the administration has to do something to keep that from happening. Yeah. Okay, that's an absurd argument. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to read the rest of Canary King's chat. Look, slavery was one of the great crimes of the country for which it hasn't been fully addressed and remedied. Now, using this as some half-baked argument, please. No. It's not it's not being used as a half-baked argument. It is actually in the language, according to the lawyers, of the 14th Amendment. That was what it was being used for. Unless I read the 14th Amendment. Okay, let's read the 14th Amendment. I'm going to pull it up later, but after we go through these videos. All right, how did we get to squatters? It's way off. Okay, so I went way off because I was trying to be smart. I was trying to be smart live on air, and it didn't work out well. Okay, so let's just move on.
So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she could talk.
All right, so that was Trump earlier in his administration talking about that. All right, now here's the argument in the Supreme Court. This is the argument between Justice Sotomayor and John Sauer, the person who's arguing for this to be adjusted by the Supreme Court. He's arguing this, and this is the exchange between him and Justice Sotomayor. He's making the point that this amendment was created for the children of slaves. It's being abused. Again, if it wasn't being abused, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. But maybe this conversation around birthright citizenship has been going on for a long time, and I just didn't know it was. It's just taking prominence because of what happened with the Biden administration.
Right now, we have multiple courts. We have novel courts who've percolated this issue and said, you're violating precedent. Not only precedent, but the plain meaning of the 14th of the Constitution.
Respectfully, I think what we have are lower courts making snap judgments on the merits that ignore the fundamental principle of the 14th Amendment, that it was about giving citizenship to the children of slaves, not to the children of illegal immigrants who really were not even a very discreet class at that time. And that's the sort of argument that deserves
people in Congress who argued against the 13th Amendment just because of that.
So let me point something out. Okay, the argument before the Supreme Court is very common sense. Now, I'll tell you what my wife told me after she had crossed the immigration checkpoint when she landed in the United States. She was clearly pregnant. She was clearly planning to have a child in the United States. But there had been cases of people who were turned back because the people at the airport knew that you're coming here to give birth to a child. Maybe they saw that they were going to be a problem. Maybe they kind of figured that there was some dishonesty in their paperwork. I don't know. Maybe they couldn't afford to pay the bill. They did some review on their earnings and figured out, okay, these people won't pay their hospital bills, because there have been people who had children and are still owing the hospital bill, the bills for the birth of their child in the States, and they're long gone. Their kids have the blue passports. The hospital is left holding the bill. So they interrogated my wife, asked her a bunch of questions, kept her there for a while, and then finally let her pass through. There are people who were not allowed to come into the country to give birth. So if the immigration system handled her coming into the country to give birth that way, it means that there has been a question lingering around birthright citizenship for a long time. All right. So let's see. I don't get the connection between squatters and citizenship. Yes, Canary King, I fell flat on my face while trying to make the connection. Thank you very much. Okay. This is what happens when friends hang out. Friends talk about stuff, and sometimes somebody fails to make a point and everyone laughs at them. They point and laugh and we all chuckle and move on. That's the way life is. I hope we can maintain this attitude when the live streams get bigger. I hope we can, because I do know that there are people who would want conflict where we don't have to have conflict. Okay, let's see. Canary King says, if a child is born in America and raised in America, what's the problem? Population. We need a population increase. Americans are not having enough kids. That is true. We are. Now, again, I'm going to pull us back to, and I know you've heard this, I'm going to sound like a record player that's skipping. The issue isn't the fact that these are American citizens being, okay, I'm getting a lot of traction on Kick. I don't know what's going on, but thank you for following on Kick. All right, YouTube, I'm waiting on you guys to match what's going on Kick. Kick is getting, now I don't have many people chatting on Kick because I put a restriction on Kick and Twitch. They have to be members for a while before they can chat, because there are a lot of bots on those platforms. I don't want the chat to be filled with bots. So the problem would always be that there was a surge that happened over the last 4 years. And that is what the Trump administration is trying to address before that explosion comes, because the explosion is coming. It's coming. It was good for a while. It could be treated as something that could be managed. But when you have 10 million potential families forming over the next 15 years, it's going to be an explosion and most of these immigrants, and I need you to understand, okay, Intergalactic and Canary King, you guys are citizens, all right? You don't have ties and when I say ties, you don't have people who expect you to take care of them since you're in a better place, you're in America, and you're obligated to take care of them. What tends to happen for immigrants is that the family that they have left in the country, especially those who still have elderly parents, require care, and so they routinely send funds out of the United States. I'm getting a lot of follows. Why is this going on? Thank you for following. I'm wondering what's going on with Kick. You routinely have people who send money home back to their home countries to take care of their parents or relatives. And it's a responsibility that they take very seriously. And that is essentially billions of dollars leaving the United States economy because immigrants are shipping it off to other countries. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not. But do you know that the billions that are leaving the United States and winding up in other countries is a net loss for the United States economy, and it is a gain for the countries that the money is sent to? The Nigerian government released a report a couple of years before I left the country that a large amount of the funds or the GDP was being generated by money sent to Nigeria by Nigerians in diaspora. So it's a real thing. It's a real economic metric where you see these millions of people shipping off billions of dollars to the countries of origin. It's something to look into. It's something to understand. It goes beyond it. Okay, something is going on with Kick today. I'm wondering what's going on with Kick. Kick is on fire, man. Kick is on fire. All right, thank you for following. So we have something to look at. So we can't just argue that there's no problem if we have more people who are giving birth to new American citizens. It's a valid way to look at things. However, I would equally say that another way to look at it is to understand that your economy is essentially going to be affected long term. It's going to be affected long term. It's not just a housing issue. It's not just a population issue. It's not just a politics or a voting issue. There's also the economy. All right. Now, Intergalactic Wrangler says, way to go, Kick. Yeah, way to go. I don't know what's going on there. I have no clue, and I hope it's a good thing. I would love more viewers. Oh, and if you're watching, please subscribe, like, and share. All right. If you haven't subscribed, follow, like, share the video. Please help out the channel. If you can donate, send us some shekels to keep the lights on and to justify my time spent on YouTube, so my wife would actually take it seriously, like it's a real job. So all of that helps out. If she sees the shekels coming in and I say, hey, do you know someone sent me $10 today, or as a donation, she was like, okay, that makes sense. I'll stop interrupting you while you're live streaming and asking you to tell the kids to remember to do the dishes. So like that's something to encourage, if you know what I mean. All right, so Canary King says, so in your personal case, you believe they made a determination that your family would be a good addition to the US population. It's hard to say, but I would say, I guess, yeah. I guess, yes. I guess, it's hard to understand because with immigration enforcement, when it comes to things like what happened with my wife, some of it has to do with policy. If you're not on a no-fly list or anything, you haven't committed any crimes, you're not, on a watch list or anything, it's down to the officer who is handling you in most cases. It's not like they're coming in to give birth, kick them out, but maybe there's some nuances that are involved. Maybe there are, Now, we've been talking about this, and I guess we've laid a foundation for about birthright citizenship. Now let's go into the nuclear. Like this topic now is radioactive. This segment of the topic now is radioactive. Yes, we have birthright citizenship. I have a sentimental connection because my daughter enjoys that. All right, she enjoys that. Let me see. I was looking for her blue passport. I was doing immigration work this weekend. Yeah, so this is my daughter's blue passport. All right, that's my daughter's. It's punctured because we renewed her passport before we left the country. So I enjoyed that, and it is very sensitive to discuss because it's almost like your daughter enjoyed that. Why are you pulling up the ladder up behind you? No, I'm not pulling up the ladder up behind me. I'm saying this is why it's happening. And why is it happening? Because there was abuse. One of the things that I hope to do with this channel and with these live streams is to cut off the abuse before someone in office has to use the nuclear option to remove that advantage from people. The United States is, I don't know how, the United States has been good to my family. Not just allowing us to have our daughter in the United States and giving her a blue passport, which is like, I told her, on your 18th birthday, you get your passport and you can go anywhere in the world you want. And that's something that my wife and I don't have any concept of, because our passports aren't blue, our passports are green. This green passport keeps us from doing anything reasonable because our leaders have screwed us. The leaders in Nigeria have screwed us. We're screwed. We can't go anywhere without being looked at like diseases. We're searched. We're treated like we carry an infection because our leaders have allowed the country to have a bad rap internationally. So if my daughter gets to take a blue passport and go anywhere she wants, I'm glad. I will go to my grave with a smile on my face. My youngest has another blue passport. He's Canadian. these are the things, like I'm sharing with you the heart of an immigrant, and I'm telling you, we want the best for our kids. But when you have a group of these immigrants crossing the border, assaulting women, starting gangs, and engaging in crimes and voting without the right to vote in Democrat cities that let them vote or encourage them to vote because, that's what they actually wanted. Why would you give free healthcare to undocumented immigrants? Why would you treat them like royalty when they come into your cities? You house them in hotels, you give them phones, you give them cards with money in them. When last did the American government give every citizen who was having a hard time a debit card that was loaded every month with money? Yes, you talk about the EBTs. The EBTs are for citizens, but like, did the American government treat the issuance of those cards that were given to illegal immigrants with the same efficiency? I told you that there was going to be the crying in the background. My oldest is trying to get the youngest to take a shower. That's why I think it's happening. All right. So, and the youngest doesn't like to have a shower. So you guessed right. So you have immigrants treated with greater efficiency than American citizens are treated with efficiency. Like, it was so quick how they were given these privileges. And in the end, you see that all of that abuse raised a massive red flag. And now the Trump administration is trying to cut this thing off at the knees. The Republicans won't do something like this. The Democrats are the ones doing this. So that's my reason. Now, over to the nuclear. I spent how many minutes trying to ease into the nuclear option. Now, the nuclear option is, the nuclear topic is, as an immigrant watching what has happened in the United States all this time, it is my opinion that only third generation immigrants and older, not older, but and higher, should be allowed to run for elected office. Now, I have several reasons, and I'll just lay them out at your feet, and you guys should just give me your thoughts. Okay. Feel free to still call back on the birthright citizenship topic if there's still more to say. Okay, but I just need to kind of move the conversation forward. So, as an immigrant, I have a culture that I grew up with. I lived in Africa for over 45 years. I will be turning 48 on the 29th of November in 19 days. Okay, I will be 28 in 19 days. And I lived in Africa for 45 years. And in all that time, there's a way Africans raise their children. There's a mindset towards public policy in Africa, in Nigeria. In Nigeria, politicians view the public trust as a central looting pot. You go in there to grab as much as you can and get away with it because nobody cares. Agency Yo, thank you for following on Kick. Kick is on fire. YouTube, where you at? So we have that background. We also have the background of how we treat neighbors, how we treat community. Intergalactic Wrangler says he'll be 48 in August, next August. Wow. Amazing. Now, looking at the way we've handled our countries, when you look at third world countries, we don't understand how to build nations. We don't understand how to lead public office. Our children should live one generation in the United States, understand the Constitution, understand how the Constitution came about, understand the history of the founding of the United States, not the woke history, the actual raw history, the sacrifices that were made to make America the country it is today. Understand the real stories of slavery. There are nuances. There were white people who weren't for slavery. There were white people who were against slavery. I hear that one of the first slave owners himself was black. Like, these are the nuances that need to be taught. So it's not just white people are evil and black people were being abused. A black person owned slaves as well. Like, these are the nuances that need to be taught in the history of the United States, and the immigrants need to understand it. They need to understand the history of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. They need to understand, the allegiance. They need to understand the flag. They need to understand everything. It has to become second nature to them, and a first-generation immigrant may not be able to carry that because his parents did not teach him that. The first generation immigrant goes through their life understanding these things, voting in elections, engaging in discourse in the public space, seeing how public policy evolves from when it's promised, when it's acted on, and the aftermath of those public policies, and see this is how you know good policies from bad. Then they're able to have these conversations with the second generation to say, this is what this country is about. This is how to do this. These are my thoughts about policy. Here you go. Second generation raises their kids, the third generation, with this background of knowledge. Then the third generation is ready to do the right thing by America. They aren't burdened by needing to protect Somalia, like we're seeing with Ilhan Omar. I have a video in my hard drive of Ilhan Omar talking to her constituents, not in English. Why would a public office holder engage with her voting her voting group in a language that is not the official language of the country she lives in? That is a problem. And I think that just as a side note, I think no one should be allowed to vote unless they speak English. If they fail an English test, they should not have a voter's card. You cannot. Language is such an important thing. If you can't speak the language of the country you live in, you can't understand the culture or assimilate into that place. You will always drag the country back to the shithole you came from, because you don't understand the language, you don't understand the history or the culture of that country. It is so important to me that this is my position. Third generation or higher can run for public office. It's not popular. It's radioactive. No one wants to say this in public. I will, even though just a handful of my viewers are going to hear this and they're like, well, yeah, it's a good idea or bad idea. We argue it here and maybe it doesn't go beyond this. No one in public office in their sound mind will ever say this, because it will lose them massive votes. It is not a safe conversation to have. I'm not running for office. I'm not a politician. I don't care. But the American people need to have this conversation to say, look, and to have it boldly. Of course, if you're Caucasian, they'll call you a racist. They'll call you all sorts of names because you're pointing a basic issue out. This experimentation of bringing in people who are first or second generation immigrants and allowing them to run for office has failed. It has failed. Ilhan Omar, is the poster child of that failure. You can't allow people like that come into your country and tell you that your country is horrible, even after they've been treated so well by your country. You should have a higher bar for letting first or second generation immigrants come in to run for public office. I'm going to read the chat. Let me know what you think. I'm seeing some conversation in the chat, so I'm going to just talk about it. Connecticut says, no, it's fine. Look, I've said so much. We need a bigger population. I agree. The United States needs a bigger population. People say that people like Bill Gates spent years telling us that the world will be destroyed because of population growth. They wanted us to have fewer children. They wanted us to kill our unborn the right to choose, the right to murder your unborn in your womb because they are an inconvenience, and so on. And they've tried to make it feel like humans are a stain on the planet. Well, we are not a stain, we're a blessing. God put us here to tend and to protect it. Now, in the end, it has affected the population growth of Caucasian populations, which is a horrible thing. If a agency, you just posted a chat. Okay, so thank you for the emoji. Let me know your thoughts on the thing, because I think his embargo has been lifted. He's been patient. Agency Yo, thank you for your first chat. All right. Now, what I would want to say, what I would want to say is that everyone should have more children. Everyone, white, Asian, Hispanic, black, have more children. The white people have caved. Now, not all of them. I met a family here in Canada. I think they have 12 kids. And they own a farm, and the kids have responsibilities on the farm. So I think that it is mostly families who live in the cities that have been indoctrinated to have fewer children. There's also the economic issue. Having children right now is so expensive to have children, especially in the more populated parts of the country, in the cities. It's more expensive. You don't have the community rallying around you to help take care of your kids like you would in a more rural or the countryside. You have families living close together. If you have 10 children, the grandma might be able to chip in to take care of them. Both grandmas can share the load. But when you're by yourself in the cities and you need to pay for childcare and babysitters and all that, that's where that problem resides. So I think we shouldn't oversimplify the birth rate issue by simply saying white people don't give birth to children. It's an urban issue. People in the urban areas who tend to be more vocal on social media and who tend to take these polls more tend to make it look like birth rate is in the gutter. People in the rural areas, both white, Hispanic, black, have more children than those in the urban areas. Okay, so I'll just put that out there. But yes, we need to have more children. I have 3 kids. I drank the Kool-Aid that said only have 2 kids. I drank the Kool-Aid. I said I was going to have only 2 kids. And by the time I had 2 kids, I began to see the error of my ways. It was a painful realization that I had made a mistake. I needed to have more kids. I didn't know I was meant to have more kids. And I failed at that. Then we accidentally had a 3rd. Canary King, get your mind out of the gutter. I know where your mind is going. It's not an accident. My wife and I were there. Yes, I can tell what Canary King is thinking before he thinks it. All right, we're that close right now because I know what you're thinking. Please don't do that. All right, so we are okay. Intergalactic has to go. Stay safe. Thank you for joining. It's been amazing having you. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, so that's my thoughts on immigrants running for office. Okay, so it's time for you guys to let me know your thoughts in the chat. Canary King can't seem to get away from the birthright citizenship topic, which is it is a very sore spot for a lot of people. So he says, first slave owners. I didn't say first. I said one of the early slave owners was black. Okay. One of the early slave owners was black. I said I saw somewhere. All right. So I tried to qualify my statements. All right. So let me play that video. Hold on. Let me Okay, so I just want to. Okay, so I'm going to play this video for you. Just give me a sec. I need to just get the video in. I need to get the video in and then play it for you. It's important, you know, for me to just verify, or let me say validate the things that I say. I don't just want to dump misinformation and then run for the hills. I said something, I have to back it up. Okay, so here's the video. Okay. All right, so this is a 10-minute video. We're going to just get the highlights and then we'll
While
dip out.
slavery existed in the American colonies through the establishment of the United States as a country until the end of the Civil War, there have been many misconceptions about slavery in general. Most Americans are not aware that there were some black former slaves and freemen who also owned black slaves, and some became very prominent in politics as well, despite the racial prejudice that existed. Some black slave owners inherited their slaves from their masters, who were themselves freed in their wills. Others were either born free or emancipated by their masters and then bought their own slaves, while others were able to buy their own freedom and that of their families. Who were these black slave owners, and how did they attain such a status in a white-dominated society? What set them apart from other blacks, and what made them comparable to whites in some of the colonies and later states? What changed in colonial society, altering the status of indentured servants to lifetime slaves, and why? Who was Anthony Johnson?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps Scout Sniper, history professor, historian and book author, and we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
All right, so I'd like us to follow the stories, and then I just want to confirm this is where, like, I heard this from sources like this. All right, and then whatever you hear on this platform, you can go back and do your own research. Okay, but there were black people who owned slaves. And again, like I said, history has nuance. It wasn't that they all went out there and bought slaves. Some of them inherited slaves. Some of them bought slaves. So it's important to be able to get that nuance. I did mention that history has a lot of nuance.
The vast majority of African Americans in the United States were enslaved, in all of the states, not just the South. Our first person of note is Anthony Johnson, who was born in Angola and captured by Portuguese slave traders, and he was given the name Antonio. Then his captors sold him into the Atlantic slave trade. He sailed to Virginia in 1621 aboard the ship James. The Virginia muster, or census, of 1624 lists his name as Antonio, not given, and he was recorded as a Negro in the notes column and indentured. Antonio, later Anthony, was bought by a colonist in Virginia, but treated as an indentured servant, which was not unusual, and Antonio worked for a merchant at the Virginia Company, and he became a Catholic. Johnson was sold as an indentured servant to a white planter named Bennett to work on his Virginia tobacco farm. Technically, he was not a slave, because the slave laws were not passed until 1661 in Virginia. So prior to that date, Africans were not officially considered to be slaves in that colony. According to the records kept by his benefactor and the existing documents, Anthony was nearly killed in the Indian Massacre of 1622 when the Powhatan Indians attacked colonists in the Tidewater region of Virginia. On Good Friday, they raided the settlement, including the Bennett farm, where
All right, so there's a lot of history going on here, but essentially, I just want to skip forward. I just need to get to a point where, essentially, here's what we're going to do. Okay, we know that he was a slave. I'm going to post the link to this video in the chat. I don't want us to get sidetracked. All right, copy link. I'm going to paste it in the chat, and then you can watch the rest of the video yourself. Okay, but if you want us to finish up the video, I can and could, but the original topic that we're trying to cover here is around whether my idea of first and second generation immigrants not being elected into office. It's just my own personal opinion, and I just wanted to know your thoughts. It's not a policy opinion, it's just a personal opinion. All right. Now, Canary King says, no, population growth or shrinkage is a database demographic item. Fine. I'm making my own personal observations based on what I know about, or what I've discovered, not what I know, but what I've discovered about people who live in rural areas and people who live in urban areas. And I think that there is some merit to that opinion. Okay? This is a propaganda video. How do you know it's a propaganda video? It's history. So the name is there. If you go in and research the individual that was being that was named, or the people who have been named in the video, then you can figure it out. Okay? We historically in Nigeria, we know the families in Nigeria who sold slaves to the white traders. We know them. And some of them have been involved in public office for generations. We know them. So when we say black chiefs engaged in slave trade, selling native Africans to the white people, it's something that we've known within Africa. And then when we say it out loud, it can't be interpreted as propaganda. It is something that we've always known in Africa. Okay, so let's see. Cross, instead of blindly regurgitating hate propaganda, it's not hate. Come on now, this isn't hate. It's about history. Okay, so let's do a second layer. Okay, let's do a second layer. All right. Grok, I'm going to ask Grok. Does history show that there were black people in the United States who owned slaves? I'll have to do that again. Were there black people in the United States who owned slaves?
Yes, there were. Around 1% of free black folks in the antebellum South owned slaves, often kin they bought to protect from sale, but some did it for profit, like Antoine Dubuclet in Louisiana with over 100. It wasn't widespread, though. Most blacks were enslaved themselves. History's full of those gray spots.
Yeah, so my point is not no. Canary King, come on. My point is history has nuance. History has nuance. I just asked a very flat question. And what I was playing the video to show was the statement I made earlier. I did say earlier, and you countered it to say, did you actually just say that? And I said, okay, I heard it somewhere. I learned it somewhere. I picked up a video that talked about it. I played it. You call it propaganda. I fact-checked myself by basically sending out a flat conversation on Grok. And you can see the answer. It's history. It's not hate propaganda. And it doesn't mean that it was widespread. It wasn't widespread. Like Grok says, it was 1%. It was 1%. Okay, so again, let's see. Instead of blindly regurgitating hate propaganda, why don't we dedicate a show or part of a show to fact-based info? Well, I'm doing a fact check right now in front of you. Cross, let's face it, this isn't your field. It's not my field. That's why I fact check with AI. So sorry that this is what you base your views on. I fact-checked myself with AI. Stop pontificating about things you don't know about. I fact-checked myself with AI. Totally embarrassing. I fact-checked myself with AI. Okay, if I say something that's wrong, I own it. I was wrong. And I did this fact check right in front of everyone. Okay, so I'm not hiding it. I don't know much about it. I never lived in the United States. I'm fact checking. I'm getting information from different sources. I fact check and I try very hard to be honest about my position on things. Did I say it was a great thing, a good thing? No. Is it we're owning people who think that white people are horrible and this is proof that no, it's all about history. I said something that happened to be historical. There was pushback. Pause and read the comments instead of blindly regurgitating. No, the comments are people's opinions. I just did a fact check on Grok. So, yeah. So let's go back on topic. Okay, I've put out my opinion. Like, we've gotten sidetracked several times, and it's on me that we got sidetracked. All right, so I apologize. Okay, but like I said, these conversations are meant to be more like easygoing, friendly conversations. Let's assume we're sitting across each other, having coffee and having this conversation. If I say something that is off point, I could read comments, and the comments could say whatever the comments want to say. Those are people who have their opinions. People have sentiments. Black people who still hold a lot of hurt concerning the history of slavery in the United States have an opinion. Black people in Africa who also have been hurt because there's a history with slavery, with people their ancestors knew getting stolen and sold off into slavery. There's that resentment as well. And that could be, Katagina 4, thank you for following. That could be interpreted as, well, that is proof that what was said is wrong or the video is wrong. It's people's opinions. What I said earlier was my opinion. And in order to correct my position, or to just I said I'm going to play a video to show you where I got it from. I don't just say things because I'm trying to make a point or trying to generate outrage. I say things that I feel genuinely that, okay, I heard about this. It's been verified several times by other people. Here's one of the sources I got this from, and that's what I did by playing the video to you. Apparently, it's not satisfactory. It's not satisfactory that I am fact-checking I'm fact-checking the statement through AI. So, okay, so the comment section, you say I should read the comment section, okay? Patrick Collins, 1855. I'm a black historian and history buff. I'd known about black owners for years. Anthony was from Africa, where slavery was normal among warring tribes or kingdoms. Enslaving other blacks was normal to him. Yet white people owned white people. I always said the battle isn't about race. That's a distraction. The war has always been about haves and have-nots. The haves, which are the minority, but have the money to brainwash the have-nots to fight among each other on divisive issues like religion, race, and sexual orientation. Update. 8 days later, YouTube won't let me respond to individuals anymore. Bottom dollar, I never said racism isn't but a major problem. I basically stated that people that control everything, the haves, use racism and other divisive tools to keep the masses, you and me, confused and divided. Also, I am a black American. All right. I don't know what this means. ADOS, FBA, all the way. One of my black ancestors' name was Tony. He came to America in 1807 as a slave. Thank you all for the good debating and open minds. P.S. 2025 to Freddie. You are correct. There are bad, poor actors in society, and trust fund babies are born innocent. Just like middle class and poor babies are born innocent. Yet the haves control the world. I hadn't seen too many trust fund babies come out against their positions in society. Matter of fact, most of the people who rule the world are trust fund babies. Okay, let's see the comments. History is not forgotten. It says it is strategically erased. What people just don't seem to realize is that slavery took place centuries before the first residents were in North America. My ancestor came over from England as an indentured servant. My understanding is you got passage on a ship to the New World by signing a contract to the ship's captain or owner, and once you arrive, the captain would auction your indentured contract to the highest bidder. You was under that new owner for the duration of the contract. That new owner could keep you or resale your contract to another owner. If your contract was still valid, if you've worked off your contract, this is for white people, you were free from the indentured service, then you could start out on your own. The indentured contract could be for years. Okay, I've read about 4 comments over here. Okay, I've done what Canary King asked me to do, and Canary King has, okay, he's actually posted more comments. Okay, your point is way off. You're repeating propaganda without reason. I used AI. Read the comments. You didn't fact check anything. I asked the question, did black people own slaves in America? AI said yes and gave one name. It was a small percentage. It gave us the answer. Sometimes we don't like the answer it gives, and to be honest, sometimes I don't like the answers that AI gives and I push back. Okay. Then why can't we discuss it? Why only your... come on, Canary King. Okay, Canary King is saying all of this before I read the comments. You didn't fact check. You were saying 99% is what you're saying is what you're saying, the 99% is irrelevant. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that 99% of slave owners being white is irrelevant. The reason why we got into this corridor of conversation is that I said historically there were black people who owned slaves. You pushed back, and then I said, okay, here's the video. Here's one of the videos I watched that said this. You said it's propaganda. I jumped onto Grok and said, Grok, were there black people who owned slaves in America? It returned a yes, there were, and gave a name. And then you said I should read the comments. I've read the comments, and I'm coming back to say, okay, I've read 4 comments. I'm still trying to figure out where you're coming from with the conversation. So, geez, you make these blanket sweeping statements without facts, loud and strong. What blanket statements? I'm only repeating what I see. You played a propaganda video without irony. No, I said, okay, I'm just going to read everything. What's next? A Nazi video. Dedicate a video on this and we can spend time on this. You're still on the propaganda. You asked me to read the comments. You asked me to read the comments on the video. And I opened up the comments on the video and I started reading it. Canary King, why are you getting upset about a conversation that was initiated by a question you asked? You asked a question about me stating that black people own slaves. and you said, and you pushed back, and I said, okay, here's the video. Here's one of the videos where this was said. And I played the video. And after playing the video, you said it was propaganda. And I went over to Grok and said, Grok, the black people own slaves. If you want me to pull up ChatGPT to ask the same question, I will do the same thing. To figure out, okay, where's the lie? I said there were black people. I didn't say the percentage mattered or didn't matter. I just said an open fact. There were black people who owned slaves. And I didn't say it was a good thing. I didn't say it was a gotcha for anyone who wanted to say that that didn't happen. No, it was simply a statement I made while I was talking about people learning about history. So it's not meant to upset or inflame anything. You don't like the video that was played. I went over to Grok and tried to fact check myself. That's what I did. All right. So this conversation has basically, I don't know, I wouldn't say it went sideways. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have conversations around things. All right. We're supposed to have conversations around issues. Okay. And if you don't agree with the conclusion, we do more research and then we come back and have more conversation. It's really that simple. All right. It's really that simple. We take a break, we take a beat, then we go back and then we come back and have more conversation. I'm not trying to state that. I'm not sure what you think I'm trying to achieve by playing the video, but I've explained myself again and again and again. Okay, I've explained myself again and again. It's not about it. This is not a gotcha moment. It is answering a question that you asked. You asked a question. I was answering the question. So I apologize if it wasn't presented in a way that was very clear, but it was essentially you asked a question. I responded, answered the question, and then it doesn't seem it's being received the way I expected it to be received. If the video that was being played is deemed propaganda, then by all means, maybe send in a counter to that video and maybe send in the results to a Grok. You can send in a query and say, okay, this is what I asked Grok or asked ChatGPT. Do the same thing and let it tell you, the right answer, the correct answer. Okay, so these are the kinds of things that we need to face up to. Sometimes the things we discover don't make us very happy. Sometimes. All right. Let's jump to the January 6th embarrassment from BBC.
Hello, good evening. Tim Davie has tonight resigned as Director General of the BBC, along with the CEO of BBC News, Deborah Turness, after a week of criticism of BBC News coverage and allegations of editorial mistakes.
All right, so they both resigned, and there was a publication that pointed out that the Trump administration's that this was evidence that the Trump administration was suppressing the press. Okay, it's genius that people will do something like they did, get the consequences of doing what they did, and then people trying to spin it to say the Trump administration is strong-arming the BBC because of something that they said that he didn't like. All right, so according to a leaked internal memo, the episode spliced together portions of Trump's speech to make it seem like he explicitly called for violence at the Capitol. That was the internal memo.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
So that's the portion of the speech that they edited. They made it look like President Trump was saying we're going to march down there and we're going to fight like hell. That was the edit that was released. So they're going to play the at least the unedited version, or at least something that wasn't as cut to say that as this was. The documentary clip featured lines taken from two sections of Trump's speech, 55 minutes apart. Wow. It was a long speech.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And
So this segment was at 2:12 p.m.
after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
So do you know what? That was not aired. It seemed like he was telling them we're going to go out there and attack these senators and Congress people. But he was saying that we're going to cheer them on. Imagine that.
And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. But I said something's wrong.
The first bit was around 12 p.m. This is 1:07 p.m. This is where the other part came from.
Here, something's really wrong. Can't have happened. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Our exciting adventures and boldest endeavors have not yet begun.
What happened here today?
So they took that and they essentially used that clip to frame President Trump, because they framed him, because that's what a lot of people watch. The content from the BBC documentary is what a lot of people have watched. I spoke with someone, and I guess that's part of what they watched, and they believe that President Trump incited the insurrection. People continue saying that he incited the insurrection. And essentially, if the only thing you ever watched was the footage that the BBC spliced together, you would believe them.
An insurrection incited by the President of the United States. Those who choose to continue to support his dangerous gambit by objecting to the results of a legitimate democratic election will forever be seen as being complicit in an unprecedented attack against our democracy.
Okay, so that is the issue. And the two top-ranking people in the BBC have resigned. And essentially, people have decided that they want to spin it to say that President Trump is strong-arming the BBC, and that's why they resigned. It's interesting. Look, we have to learn to simply just speak the truth. For years, I've been following President Trump's interviews and speeches, and it just continues to get clearer and clearer that no matter how much you call out mainstream media for lying, they don't care. They will continue to tell these lies. I've watched speeches and President Trump says one thing and then they head out there and say something completely different. Okay, so it is perfectly normal for them to do that, and it has become so normal that people just don't trust them anymore. Personally, I don't trust mainstream media anymore. I watch them to kind of see what they're saying about things, but then again, you have to do your own research. You have to go back, do your fact checking. You have to fact check yourself. There's AI tools to fact check yourself with, like I did a few moments back. There's Google search. You can do a Google search. You can use browsers like Brave to run your search. You can go on DuckDuckGo if you don't trust Google, and then you can figure out these things for yourself. For years, many of us had been saying that President Trump was framed. There wasn't an insurrection. There's something wrong with this picture. And then suddenly, today, we're finding out that all of it was orchestrated. There were people who basically wanted him to look bad. Does it mean that President Trump is perfect? He's an angel. He can do no wrong. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that there were people who were out there who wanted to lie about him, who wanted him in jail. Of course, they attempted to impeach him. Okay? They attempted to impeach him. And the impeachment failed. Here it says Trump was impeached. Trump was impeached by Congress, charged with inciting the deadly attack, but he was later acquitted. Okay, so they couldn't prove that he was liable for the things that they accused him of. Now we have these two people who resigned. We're going to read the report from Ground News. BBC chair apologizes for error of judgment. They call it an error of judgment. When they lie, is an error of judgment. But when someone who is conservative does something, it is an existential threat, and that person should not be forgiven. On January 6, 2020, it wasn't 2020, it was 2021. This is erroneous, okay? On January 6, 2021, the speech at the center of the row was delivered, and the BBC chair apologized for an error of judgment over the panorama edit as Tim Davie and Deborah Turnis resigned overnight. Samir Shah said there have been more than 500 complaints since the memo raised concerns, and the BBC accepted the speech's edit gave the impression of a direct call for violent action. That is the intention. They did it, that was intended, and that was the outcome. Until today, there are people who still accuse President Trump of inciting an insurrection. And these are intelligent people. These are people who have degrees behind their names. These are people who work in media. These are people who work in finance, people who don't have the time to rummage through hours and hours of speeches to confirm that what the news is telling you is true. All right. Now, I'm going to do my best to kind of present the facts to you as much as I can, as much as I'm able to. And in order to help make this happen, okay, I would like you to consider supporting the channel, subscribe, like, share the video. And if you can, donate to the channel, send a super chat, or use the link to the donation link to donate to the channel to continue to encourage us to do what we do. It is a special brand of content, because right now, content, the more outrageous your content is, the more views you get. It is not my aim to farm outrage. I just look at things and I tell you my opinion. I intentionally, because I am not a controversial person, okay, I don't like to look for controversy. I don't like to gin up controversy. This is the way I like to talk. Calm, softly, and talk about things in an even way. If that doesn't inspire you to keep watching my content, that's fine. This channel is not for you. If you want somewhere you can sit and have a decent conversation or hear someone break down ideas without being outrageous, amazing. This is the place for you. Now, does it mean that I will get it right 100% of the time? No. But I will promise that if I do find out that I got something wrong, I will say I got it wrong. Earlier, I tried to finagle a comparison between the birthright citizenship situation and squatters' rights, and I fell flat on my face. I owned up to the fact that I didn't land that comparison, and it happens regularly on this channel, okay, especially during the live streams. It happens regularly, and I will own up to it to say I didn't get it right. If you want honest engagement about the facts and about stories, and the possibility that if something is wrongly presented to you, you will receive an apology and get the correction well covered, possibly within minutes of that statement being made, then this is the channel for you. So consider hanging out, subscribing, liking, following, and liking and sharing the video. And again, a call to consider supporting us financially by donating using the donation link in the chat. All right, so the Telegraph reported that Panorama edited 2 clips together, and Leavitt criticized the BBC as a leftist propaganda machine, with Trump posting, "The top people in the BBC, including Tim Davie, the boss, are all quitting or fired because they were caught doctoring my very good," don't know what came next. A restructured BBC Arabic team and a new Arabic-speaking head of editorial quality and standards were announced, while BBC News will imminently appoint a director of news, documentaries, and long-form journalism and an executive editor of editorial quality and standards. Nigel Farage led calls for wholesale changes at the BBC, backed by Conservative and Reform MPs, while Turness defended BBC journalists and Dame Caroline Dinenage called Davies' resignation sad but avoidable. Interesting. Are we going to see a course correction in mainstream media? I don't think so. Well, they're just going to figure out ways to continue doing what they've been doing. Mainstream media has been a tool, using Canary King's word, propaganda tool, to spread a lot of engineered information. I'll call it engineered information. It's not information. It's just engineered to send specific information that they want people to get. Misinformation is like the dog whistle that they've created. Saying it always skews your thinking one way. When they engineer information, it's intentional. It's propaganda. They piece together things that actually happened, but framed in a way that skews perception the way they want you to view it. Okay. Did Trump make a speech? Yes. Did he say these words? Yes. Did he say these words in the way it was presented? No. Hi, Canary King. I will still talk about you because you're my guy. So let's not. Hi. Yeah. So it is important to just catch these things, call them out, learn how to catch them, learn how to tell the truth. If the mainstream media is trying to spin the entire engagement with the BBC's, the resignation of these 2 top operatives in the BBC as pressure from the Trump administration, that's rich. That's very rich, because they essentially smeared the President of the United States and attempted and provided a lot of the fodder in public opinion that pushed, that gave the politicians and the legal system the boldness to go after him and his family the way they did. This is, I think it was Goebbels, Joseph Goebbels. He was the father of propaganda. And the idea behind propaganda is to sway public sentiment to the point where the public will give permission to the public, so that the public will give permission to the politicians or the leadership of the country to act in ways that they would not have approved of earlier. And that had to do with the way they treated the Jews, gypsies, or anyone else that they deemed as unfit to live. So they released propaganda to sway public opinion. So when they would see the SS dragging away their Jewish neighbors, they wouldn't complain because the propaganda framed the Jewish neighbors as rodents that needed to be excised from society, and everyone agreed and said, okay, well, they're doing a net good for the German population. The BBC thing is crazy. It is. There's footage from, I saw footage on X on how CNN presented the speech as well. It was quite similar. Of course, the mainstream media in the US has been called out, but the BBC may have thought that that their involvement had escaped scrutiny. But the Telegraph, I think it was the Telegraph. Was it the Telegraph? I'm trying to look through. Yeah, the Telegraph that reported it just didn't let them get away with it. So it's crazy. But what else is happening that we haven't been paying attention to? What has been going on in the news, on mainstream media, where billions of people across the world, because this isn't just Europe, it's not just America. CNN doesn't just broadcast in the United States alone. It broadcasts all over the world. What else have they been saying that isn't true? All right. So when you look at the way the left is reporting the story, it's saying error of judgment. BBC chairman apologizes for an error of judgment, apologizes for editing Trump's speech. To them, it's editing Trump's speech. And the third option, BBC president apologizes for a Trump program, but defends the chain from accusations of bias. That is left-leaning. Huffington Post, HuffPost UK. BBC chair apologizes for error of judgment amid Donald Trump bias row. Now, on the right, we have the same skew. BBC apologizes for Trump editing error of judgment. BBC apologizes for error of trial. I don't understand what that means. This is a Chinese. Anywho, this is an interpretation. Okay, after Trump misleading speech, global. It's an interpretation. So they are calling it an error of judgment. They're calling it an error of judgment, but we all know that they simply lied, and the intention or the intent was to make President Trump look bad. All right, so we're at the very tail end of the live stream. Okay, thank you all for your engagement in the chat. I'm going to do a roll call. Canary Kin, the MVP of the chat. Lauren left a chat, and then Tara, Intergalactic Wrangler. Then we had a chat from Agency Yo, just emojis from Agency Yo, and then another from Cartagena 4. So you guys, thank you. You make the live streams work. Canary King makes it rich because of his engagement in the chat. He's the MVP, and I do appreciate the back and forth that we have routinely. I say again and again, Canary King and I have explosions on occasion. Today was one of those explosions, and you know what? Well, we're still friends. We're still friends. I have my opinion. I have my position. There's a way I presented the review that I went over today, and he pushed back, and I was like, okay, but here's what I was trying to do. I don't know why we're having this row. Okay, so this tends to happen, but please feel free to engage in the chat. Talk, share. Let's know your thoughts. Tomorrow we're going to be back same time tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern time. I'm going to be posting the topic that's coming up tomorrow. I'm going to try to be doing that the day before. I'm going to be trying very hard to do more research so that I have more accurate content. I will try. I will do my best. I will promise to do my best. I don't want to ever present you with anything that is faulty. I don't want to ever present you with lies. I don't ever want to present you with things that I haven't thought out. If I'm thinking through the process, I might make a mistake live on air, and I will apologize if I do make that mistake, but I will do my best. I can promise you that I will do my best. So I hope that you'll be back tomorrow. Look out for the community post if you're on the YouTube side. If you're on the Kick and Twitch side, just stay tuned. If you are interested in connecting on the YouTube side, the link, just follow, okay. There's meant to be a link in the video description. If it doesn't exist on Kick or Twitch, during the next live stream or this one, you can simply ask for the link to be sent. But you can go to YouTube and search for Crossroads IRL, all one word, and it will take you to the channel, and you can join directly in the channel. If you want to support the channel by sending a donation, super chat, or join the membership to be part of the exclusive group that receives members only content and other perks, please consider joining that way. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be dipping out, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Until next time, God bless you.